Hi guys, I'm delighted to have a very special guest joining us today from across the pond. Today we're joined by the Hollywood mob boss Orlando Ori Spado. Ori recently released a book documenting his life called The Accidental Gangster. All links for the book and the website will be below. Hi Ori, how you doing?
I'm good, mate.
Excellent. And
Great day.
Yeah. And so to start with, let's talk about the book. What was the motivation for you to release the book?
The book was initially released on November 12th, I think it was.
Yep.
This is the book. However, in the past week, I got all my rights back from my publisher because some promises they made me did not come through, where it was supposed to be available in bookstores, airports, and so forth. So I made a deal with Coastal West Publications out of Canada, very good company, and their main concern is trust towards the authors. So my book will it will have the original cover that my photographer took when it comes out, which is in color, and it would be available in hard copy as well as soft and Kindle and audio.
Yeah, I did notice the other one didn't have the Kindle. But so talk to me, what was the motivation for you writing the book, Ori?
Well, after prison, a lot of time to think. I felt that if I could help some young man out there from getting involved in a life or a gang, then I wanted to get my message across. And that was a very important part of it for me. And since my release, I'd like to announce that I'm happy that I successfully have two young men that I've spoken to over Facebook that I changed their lives around as a result. So the book was well worth it.
Fantastic. I'm sure there's a lot more than two people. They're the two people you know about. So
Those are who I know about. Yeah.
hopefully it can stop people going down that certain path. So obviously, starting with the title, The Accidental Gangster, how did you become the accidental gangster? Obviously, for people who don't know, you had a successful insurance business. How did you slip into the path of crime, or were you always dabbling while you had the insurance stuff? For people who don't know, tell us.
My first indictment came as a result of a confidential informant that was going to try to take over my insurance agency. And he threatened the state of New York, and the insurance company had no choice but to bring charges against me on a deal that we had made. And I can understand why, because the insurance company would have lost their license in the state of New York. So that was my first indictment in federal court. And I ended up losing my insurance license, which was a means for me. And I made a very good living with insurance. I was very successful in it. And because I knew a lot of people and so forth and so on, I've always been a hustler all my life. And I became well known, and through the years, I met a lot of people that I've become friends with. And I want to state that one of my best friends, my best mates, is from London, Joey Pyle Sr. And today, Joey Pyle Jr., I call him my third son. I got more respect and more love for Joey and all the guys around Joey than I do for any of the other guys around the country. I gotta be honest. But Joey Sr. and I enjoy a long-lasting and loving relationship.
So for people who don't know, obviously I'm based in London, so obviously I know all about Joey Pyle. So tell us a little bit about Joey Pyle. How did you come into his life, or how did he come into your life? And a bit about your business with him.
I actually met him through a dear friend, Danny Sims. Danny Sims owned the first publishing and discovered Bob Marley. And he was in a recording business. And then he had an office in London. He was with Joey. and they got Mark Morrison, Return of the Mac. And so they had a deal with Warner Brothers, and Danny introduced me to Joey, and Joey knew a little bit about me, and they asked me if I would look over Mark while he was here in the U.S., make sure he got to the studio and things like that there. And of course, I did it. I brought my son Anthony with me. He's younger, and he understands the music business much better than I do. And he and Mark hit it off real well. And my son seen to it that Mark got the Warner Brothers recorded and so forth. And since that day, Joey and I, for some reason, we just clicked like this. You can't believe it. And we got to the point we were talking on the phone from across the pond 4 or 5 times a day. And Joey would be out at a pub every night, of course, or at his kitchen when the pub was closed. Joey always ended the evening there, and he put all his mates on the phone with me, and I got to know everybody over the phone. And then, of course, I traveled to London several times and spent a lot of time with Joey. And actually, Joey came here when I did the concert. I did White Club John at the Aladdin Hotel in Las Vegas. So he came over with the whole crew. And, so if I needed something in Europe, Joey handled it. Joey needed something over here, I handled it. And I miss him very dearly to this day.
Rest in peace to Joey Pyle. He had a very big reputation in London, and he still does to this day. And I've never heard a bad word said about him. He must be an awesome guy, a good guy.
And I'll tell you, Joey Jr. is his father, and we talk often.
Yeah, I see that he's slightly involved in the boxing. Joey Pyle Jr. is as well.
Actually, Joey and I were talking. Hey, Joey has a book coming out. He asked me to write an acknowledgement. And it was the last time I saw Joey Sr. Me, my son Anthony, and John Daly all traveled to London. John Daly was a famed film producer, director. He did Platoon, countless of other movies. He's an Englishman himself.
Yes.
We were at the fights at Caesars. And I'll never forget, young Joey was boxing a guy named Burt Reynolds. B-U-R-T. Believe it or not, his name was Burt Reynolds. Yes. And Joey really pounded the shit out of this guy. But more importantly than watching Joey pound the shit, I was looking at his father's face, who was in a wheelchair at the time, looking at his face and just beaming for the pride and how proud he was of his son and how much he loved his son. And that picture, I wish I had a camera. It was worth unworth it. You couldn't put $1 on it.
But so talk to me about how you got introduced to the Mafia families. Did you have family in the Mafia yourself? Obviously, you're of Italian. Are you of Italian or Sicilian heritage?
I'm 100% Italian. I'm Calabrian. My grandfather was involved in it. When he came over, he was a made man from Calabria, and they settled in Rome, New York. And so it's been in my blood, but my father told me a lot of stories, but didn't want me in it, but I was in it. I got into it. A very dear friend of mine, Frank Russo, we used to go to New York City all the time together. And I was a young man. He introduced me to Frank Costello, Russell Buffalino. Then I had a business deal I was trying to close. Frank Russo introduced me to Carlo Marcello. I flew to New Orleans, had a meeting with Carlo. And ultimately up to where I met Sonny Franzese. And Sonny and I became friends for over 40 years. Sonny was the underboss of the Columbo family. And he just died a few months back at the age of 103 years old. So
Fantastic. So for people who don't know, obviously you say he's the underboss of the Columbo family. Tell people a little bit more about Sonny Franzese, if you can. What sort of man was he? What sort of guy was he to deal with?
well, my relationship with Sonny, I found Sonny to be a very intelligent man. And anybody in his position or anybody in my position, I find are intelligent. You know, there's an old saying, the head of an organization could run any large company. They could. I think we just choose another path. And making decisions are much bigger in the life than they are in corporate America. And the reason being is because sometimes you're dealing with the life of another individual. And a decision must be made. And in order for that decision to be made, you know, you got to know both sides of the story. And as we say, there's three sides to every story: yours, mine, and the truth. And Sonny was very good at coming to that determination.
So obviously a lot of people look up to the Sonny Franchises and people like yourself. Do you think Sonny regretted the life he led when he died? Or he died proud of the life he led? Obviously, I think he served 40 years in jail, didn't he?
He did 40 years of his life in prison. Probably the most violated man in the United States. He was violated, I think, 6 times for a robbery that he got 50 years on. And in reality, he had nothing to do with. But informers try to say they paid tribute to Sonny, and he ended up in a 50-year bid. First time he got out, I think it was after 12 years. And then since then, he was violated 6 times. And then the last indictment was the indictment that I was on with Sonny and others in 2008. We were all indicted on a Columbo crime family RICO charges back in Brooklyn.
So how did you get caught up in that RICO charge?
Through an informant.
Okay, and what were your business dealings with the Columbo family, or was it Sonny itself? Or
well, you know, the guy have 2 predicate acts to bring you in on a RICO charge. RICO is racketeering, influence, corrupt organization. My first predicate act was distribution of cocaine, 50 kilos or more. It was all created by the informant who sat on my couch wearing a wire inside his watch. Yeah, that's where they put them. They put them inside watches, or they'll put them in the ear. They could put them any place today. No more of that wiring up stuff that you see. And a friend of mine, a Jamaican boy, was in downtown Los Angeles, NDC, where they were transferring him to North Carolina. And his wife came to me with 2 Mexicans, and there was $500,000 owed to him on the streets back in Brooklyn. They asked me to get it for them. And the informant sitting there, I called the guys. I knew who they were. They already had $100,000 ready. So we had that picked up that evening. Now the informant starts talking to the Mexican and says, you know, we want 50 kilos every 2 weeks. I got the truck, we'll transport them. And, you know, and everything's going through Ori. And I'm sitting there, I never done cocaine business. Okay? Um, you know, oh, we'll make a lot of money. And he rattles off these numbers. I said, no shit, you can make that much. And then when he went back to New York, he talked to Sonny's nephew, who was the acting capo of the Columbo family, Michael Carapano. And he starts telling Michael all the money that they're going to make with Ori on this cocaine deal. Michael and I never had a conversation about it. Never. Michael never called me up to confirm it. And it just went back and forth like that. The informant went between the two of us. And it was Michael and I who got indicted for the cocaine conspiracy. And then my second predicate act had to do with what they called a home invasion robbery here in Burbank. And it was a setup robbery. It was not a real robbery. But it had to be set up to look like it was a real robbery. And so it was those two predicate acts. Fortunately, the informant on a trial before us, his name was Guy Furtado. He was so bad at the trial, they caught him lying so much. The judge declared him the worst informant he ever seen on all his years in the bench. And I'm talking about Judge Weinstein, who's still on the bench today, and he's 90-something years old. So he's been there a long time. They just wanted to use the few tapes he had against me.
Okay.
And ultimately, my attorney said, no, you bring him to the courtroom. They didn't want to bring him. So I ended up, they dismissed that charge as long as I pled guilty to a gun charge. And I got a minimum mandatory sentence of 60 months, 5 years.
No good. So how did the informant come into your life? How did Guy come into your life? How did he get around you?
Through Sonny Franzese.
Okay, so thank God you couldn't be blamed for bringing the informant to New York or sending him there. Thank God that was...
Sonny introduced me to him at La Mala's restaurant on Mulberry Street, New York. And, you know, Sonny was grooming this guy to become a made man. And that meal, on that meal, my daughter and my grandkids came into New York. They were at the dinner. I'll never forget listening to that recording when I was in prison, and I'm hearing my grandchildren. I mean, but that was a big mistake that Sonny made.
But for kids who are thinking about getting into this life, tell us how prevalent informants are. How many of them there are out in the streets?
I talked to a friend of mine back in New York. There are so many informants now on the street. And Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, they got so many informants that they're wiring each other. You know? And actually, John Franzese, Sonny's son, who became an informant on our case, and we're wires. When Guy Fatat was out here, I got Johnny, who was living out here, and me, him, and Johnny had lunch at the Ivy restaurant, and I'm sitting between the two of them. Now, I didn't say nothing intimidating or to get me in trouble or anything of that nature, but they were both wearing a wire on me at the same time. So how many informants? There's more informants on the streets than anybody could imagine. The world has changed. It's a different world. I always say I should have been born in the 20s and brought up in that era. Those were when there were really real men. And you didn't have telephones, you didn't have computers. If you saw a camera, you ran. Because you knew it was law enforcement. And yeah, things have changed. the world has changed.
For any young men considering getting into a life of crime, seeing all these movies, these mafia movies, thinking that it's like this, what would you tell them?
Try to explain to the movies they see are just that, movies. I've been involved in Hollywood for over 40 years. Okay, you got to understand, you know, there's no scene in Hollywood. How well will it do in Des Moines? Okay, middle America, where the people want it. So the writers get creative, and it, like on my book, if that gets made into a film or a TV series, it's going to be a hell of a lot different in my book, because those writers are going to do something. All right, because they got to make it appealing to the masses audiences. But my advice is today, and I try to tell people, young men, get an education, get a trade, because the legitimate money that you make in this world is money that sticks with you. Fast money, as the saying goes, fast woman, fast cars, and the money goes quickly. Yeah, you make a big score, but you could blow it in a very short period of time, and you're looking for your next score. It's a constant battle. And you got to live your life always looking around. You never know who, what, maybe somebody don't like you, and things happen. And today in this world, with everybody having cell phones, cameras on the streets like you can't believe, they know everything that you're doing. You're not going to get away with anything. You might for a short period of time, but they're going to get you. The FBI has over 35,000 people working for them. They don't have to leave their office to know what you're doing anymore. They don't have to follow you like they used to follow me, because they got your phone, they got the GPS of your car, they got everything. They know what you're doing. They can listen in to your phone. So how you going to beat them? They got more money, they got more manpower, and they got all the time in the world, and they got all the laws on their side.
That tells the kids everything, I think. It's set up to fail, isn't it? A life of crime these days.
Right. They say, does crime pay? No, it don't pay.
So you've got a fantastic story about Naomi Campbell, another fellow Brit. If you could tell the viewers about that, do you mind sharing that?
It's funny. I got more Brit friends and more Canadian friends probably than I got in the United States.
Nice. It's a good thing.
Yeah. No, I'm proud of that.
So talk to us about the time you helped Naomi Campbell out of a little problem she had, if possible.
Well, Wyclef John was friends with Naomi Campbell. He called me up. At the same time, Haitian Jack was living with me, sleeping on my couch. And so I went to Naomi's house. It was Christmas time. She was having a Christmas party. And she told me about this stalker who was stalking her. He had been stalking her for quite a while. And I told her, I took whatever information she had. I said, I'll handle it. And she said, why don't you stay for the party? I said, no, I got to run. She said, a lot of people, I said, I'm going to walk through the room, Naomi. I'll say hello, but I got to go, because I had a date and I had a girl waiting for me at the Beverly Hills Hotel. So I walked to the room. Hi, how you doing? I left. The next day, it was the party. After I left, Sophia walked around the room. I just met the Godfather. Anyways, the stalker lived out in Long Island, New York. So I found out where he lived. And I sent two of my guys there. They got in the house fairly easily. We know how to do that. And they had the guy sitting on his chair. And I said, once you got him sitting down, get me on the phone. They did. And I had a talk with him. And I explained, I gave him very good, proper advice of what could happen if he even thought about Naomi anymore. And I'm not going to tell you exactly what I said, but I said, look at those two gentlemen. I said, they're being very nice today. I said, the next time, I said, remember those faces, because it'll be the last time. And so I stopped him from stalking. And after I did it, Jack was listening to me on the phone. He gets up and goes to my dining room table and calls Naomi and says, I just handled that for you. And that was Jack, but you know.
So tell us a little bit about Haitian Jack. How did he come to be staying on your sofa? Obviously, he's got a huge reputation in hip-hop as a real boogeyman. He used to extort a lot of the hip-hop stars, apparently. He used to... Hip-hop's petrified of Haitian Jack.
That's his biggest thing. You know, you bring me anybody that wants to tell me how many people they killed, and I'm going to tell you, that man didn't kill anybody. Because anybody kills somebody, he's never going to talk about it. Unless they're a total fool, which Jack obviously was. Okay? Because he was taking credit for other, and I knew who did the work. Okay? I knew it wasn't Jack. That's the kind of guy he did, and he scared these people. I mean, he was a tough kid. He was built right. He's a hell of a talker. And he was an informant for the FBI for a long time. And then he was even lying to them. And they got rid of him and they deported him out of the country. He's in the Dominican Republic.
So how did Jack come into your life?
Through Danny Sims. Danny Sims was doing something with Wycliffe. Danny came from New York. Jack came with him, introduced me. Here again, Jack told me what a good guy he was, and Jack was moving here, and she could lay on my couch for a while. It ended up for a year or more.
Okay, was Jack trying to get information on you, do you think, while he was living with you, or was he just a real rodent trying to get whatever he could out of you, whether it be money?
There was a detective who was trying to write a book or something on Jack, and Jack was talking to him. And it came out as somewhere's on the computer. But yeah, Jack was trying. But even with Jack sitting on my couch, he could never figure out what the fuck I really did. I mean, because what I do, I keep between me and myself. And even with somebody sitting there, they're not going to know what I'm going to do. You know what I mean? So I was always careful in that respect.
Okay, so what made yours and Jack's relationship end? Was it when you found out he was an informant, or was there any falling out? Or
Jack eventually got an apartment in the building I was living above me, and he made a score on marijuana that he stole from some Mexicans and sold it back in Ohio. And my patio doors, I had a large patio, and if you're out in front of my building, I was able to hear you talk. When Jack came back, Ricky Lee was talking to him, and about the big score. He said, "You better go up and take care of the old man." Here's a guy that lived with me for a year, and you know what he said? "Fuck the old man. He don't need my money." In the meantime, he was driving my son's car. So I called him. I said, "You get up here, put my fucking son's keys under the fucking door, and I want you out of this building tomorrow." I said, "You understand, there's only one gangster here in Beverly Hills, and that's me." And he was gone. Next day, there was a U-Haul there. And then eventually, I introduced Jack to a lot of the guys out here. And then when he became an informant, everybody heard he was. They go, why did you introduce me? I didn't know he was an informant.
Yeah, part and parcel of this world. Like you say, there's more informants out there than police out there, I've heard. So
In today's world, get a job or an education, young men. And trust me, you'll be able to enjoy your life comfortably, have a good family, and stay out of prison.
So on that topic, on the prison topic, talk to us about jail. Was it the first time you went to jail on the Columbo indictment, or had you been previously?
Time on a Columbo indictment that I've been in jail before a few times, but I was always in and bailed right out. But not this time. I was transferred to. They arrested me in my home here in Beverly Hills and put me on Con Air and flew me to Brooklyn, New York, where I spent the first 30 months fighting my case. Doing time in Brooklyn. Brooklyn, a horrible place, but being around so many Italians because they had Italians from every family were there. So, we all helped each other, cooked, and some of our meals were fantastic. Some of those guys baked Thanksgiving, Christmas, they baked pies you couldn't buy on the outside. And so it was good because we were very well respected in prison. And I ended up doing my last 30 months in Lompoc. I didn't care for Lompoc that because I was like basically the only Italian on the yard. But everybody respected me. And in prison you keep your mouth shut, you mind your own business. You're there for one reason, do your time. And that's it.
Yeah, indeed. Did you come across any notorious criminals that the viewers might have heard of in prison in your time in jail? Name a couple of them if possible.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'll tell you one guy that I became very dear friends with. His name is Charles Carneglia. If you Google Charlie, he's in prison now. He got life plus 40. And Charles' case was in the Eastern District in New York. John Gotti Jr.'s case was in the Southern District. They were like mirrored trials, if you want to call it that. John was able to get off because he had not been with the Enterprise for 5 years or longer. Charlie, in reality, was not either, but they put him back on a technicality. And they say that without Charlie Carneglia, there would have been no John Gotti. But Charlie and I became very close. I'll never forget the day after his trial when they were sending him to prison. He's in Canaan, in Pennsylvania. And the guards allowed me and Charlie a few minutes together. We're saying goodbye to each other. And here it is. We were both crying. Charlie calls me about once a month. And when we talk, he got life plus 40.
Jesus. That's what that life leads to, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I met that judge and did not want him to see daylight again.
No good.
You name them, they were in Brooklyn at the time, from all the families.
So you mentioned John Gotti. Did you ever have any dealings with him? Come across him at all?
John Gotti, no. I ran across him twice. I was introduced. We met twice. I met him with Sonny. But, the conversation, him and Sonny were, they were finishing up a meeting, and that was it, but to say that I really knew John Gotti. I didn't really know him. I met him. You know, hello, how are you? How's everything? You know, stuff like that.
Okay, what was Sonny's opinion on John Gotti? Did he tell you at the time?
He thought John Gotti was a tough kid. And John wasn't stupid either. You know, like I say, these guys are not stupid. But it's a life that they believe in. It's a life that they were brought up in. And for Sonny, it's the life that he died with. And they were men. And John Gotti and a lot of the others. There's nobody around anymore.
Would you say the life's dead? Is the old Mafia life dead, the one we see on the movies? Is that life done?
I have not been involved with it. It's only my assumption. It will never be like it was. Will it ever die? No. Okay, you got to remember, for everybody that leaves, there's somebody coming in. Okay? And, you know, it's just a lot different. There are in a lot of legitimate businesses today. A lot of them put their money wisely. And let me tell you what happened to me at Lompoc. When we got to Lompoc and we got off the bus, you got to go through this little hallway where there's a big glass bulletproof window and the guards are behind it. You got to give your name and your inmate number. When it got to me, everybody did it. When it got to me, the guard says, everybody, I want you to meet that older man in the back. His name's Ori Spado. He's the mob boss of Hollywood, fresh from the Columbo crime family. And I'm there, here I am, getting to California. I go, what the fuck is this, Disneyland? I mean, because, you know, back in New York, the guards, you know, they're from the neighborhood and everything. It was quite different. And then when you go through R&D, when they're giving you your clothing, your bedding, and all that shit, and you got to fill these papers out. There was one question. Are you a member of the Mafia, a gang, or any organized crime? I marked no. And then I went back into the cell, and it was a big cell. Everybody was in there just going into the prison. And this little guy comes to me, Spado, come here. I said, yeah, what's wrong? He said, you answered a question wrong. What question? Sure. I said, no, I didn't answer it. Come with me. He takes me in the office. No, he said, you answered that question wrong. You're a member of the Mafia. I said, what are you talking about, Mafia? There is no Mafia. I said, it was made up in the movies. It's made up by the U.S. Attorney and you people in law enforcement. But you're the boss of Hollywood. I said, I'm not the boss of the Spado family. That answer is no. So that's how I said it, and that's what I believe. Whether you believe it or not, it's another story.
Talk to me about coming out the shadows, as you said it, when you released the book, when you started doing the podcast, interviews. What's the impact been on your life? Good and bad? What sides? Both sides, if possible.
It's good. It's positive. It's a different life. You know, people recognize me when I go out on the streets. You know, all my life, people had a perception of who I was and what I did. But perception is a different reality. But after I got arrested, the reality set in. But, you know, all my life I tried to be quiet and not let people know what I'm doing and so forth. But now it's quite different. I'm doing consistent interviews. I'm well known, not only in the United States, but in England, other countries, and Canada. I just take it. It's for me. It's become normal. I'm building a brand, and I got a new publicist, so I'm going to be doing much more. There'll be more newspaper writings, magazines, and TV talk shows and things of that nature are coming along. But give you an example. I was before this COVID began. I would take my walk in the morning, and I walk up Cannon Drive, get my espresso, and me and a few guys met at Giuseppe Franco's on Cannon Drive, and we shoot the shit, smoke our cigarettes. And one day I'm there, and there's a parking lot behind it, and everybody who works in Beverly Hills, they park their cars and they start walking to work. And I'm standing there, and a young man comes walking through, dressed in a suit, nice young man. He stops and he looks. Oh my God, Ori Spado? I look, yeah. Oh my God, Mr. Spado, I've seen every one of your podcasts, and my father's watched them all. We love you, and this and that. And I said, thank you. The young man's name is Shaun, and he's the manager at the Rolex store on Rodeo Drive. And those are the kind of things that happen. And actually, Shaun stopped by here this morning, and look at what he brought me. I mean, he brought me a gift. He's a very nice young man, and one of the nicest young men you ever want. In addition, he brought me some, some more masks that they really good masks. And today we got to wear masks, and I think it's going to be around forever now.
It's a terrible new world, isn't it? It seems like we're living in at the moment.
Yeah. I think the day's going to come that we're not going to have any movie theaters. I think the entertainment industry is changing, and they have to change.
It's not a good thing. The theatre shutting, and the kids today, they won't know the theatre, will they? So I can't see anyone going to the theatre or the movies anytime soon.
No. You want to go to the movie theater with people sitting behind you, coughing, sneezing?
Another topic. At a certain point in your life, you became somewhat a marijuana kingpin, or or half kingpin. You were certainly moving some serious weight. Talk to us a little bit about that, if possible.
I wouldn't say kingpin. It was only 500 pounds every couple of weeks.
That's serious weight by anyone's stretch.
Yeah, we had a pilot. We flew it out of Arizona and New York, and I'm gonna tell you, the marijuana became a cutthroat business at that time too. And then I became known to be able to move stuff that nobody else could move. I'm not talking about the big stuff that they're dealing with today, the high-end marijuana. This is in the day primarily the Mexican weed. You had two different weeds coming in from Mexico. The one that came in from San Diego was packed in blocks about that big. It was harder than a brick, And then had what they called the Arizona weed, which was fluffy and be flowers. And, you bring 500, you think you're going to double your money. And then you distribute it to people before you know it. When they start cutting them open, the middles are packed with seeds. Because what the Mexicans do, the people who pick it and package it, they get paid by the hour. They're only getting paid penny. and they want to do it fast. Okay, so they put seeds in there. They don't care, and that cuts down on your profit. And then we had a situation where somebody came to me, and there was 3,500 pounds in a warehouse, and in the Bronx. And what happened was when the truck came across the border in Texas, the truck that was supposed to go to New York went to Chicago. The one who was supposed to go to Chicago went to New York. Now, the guy in the Bronx was a big dealer. We're talking 3,500 pounds now. And he told the Mexicans, he's not taking this, get it the hell out of here. Okay? And he would not release it unless somebody took it off. Now, in the meantime, it's sitting in his warehouse for an extended period of time. So when I found out about it, I said, we'll take it. And I got some guys, they drove with the truck. They got it, cleared it. He cleared his warehouse out. I'll never forget. Then by the time they got back, it's nighttime. And we stayed at a hotel out near Kennedy Airport. And we needed the truck to be washed, and we had to make sure we got a hotel room. I had the two guys washing it all night long. And then we found the place on Long Island. Happened to be a very, very famous rap singer's wife. Her home. Brought it her garage. And we started opening it up. I mean, the outsides were moldy, and we had to take the mold off. Okay, and it was never going to sell it at the price that we intended, but I was able to sell it. And then the Mexicans were expecting X number of dollars per pound. I said, there's no way. I said, that's not what you proclaimed it is. I said, that was a shitty wheat. It was moldy. This is how much we're going to give you. Went back and forth. And the drivers, they're looking for the money. And these drivers, they've been sitting and living in their trucks parked out in New Jersey. I'm talking for quite a bit. They couldn't go back without the money. And I gave them a few bucks. And then the guy was nervous because the guys from the cartel, now they're going to kill these guys. And I had them meet me at Proctor Park in Brooklyn. I said, I want to talk to that fucking guy in Mexico. So I was talking, I don't know who it was. It was one of the cartel bosses. And I told him just like it was. I said, you ain't getting what the fuck you think you're getting. I said, I'm willing to pay you something, but you ain't agreeing on it. And you're going to kill this fucking guy? I said, it's not his fucking fault. I gave him fucking hell. I said, you want to kill someone? Come here. I said, you and I meet. We'll see who kills you. And anyway, it was quite an episode. And then finally, he sent his son over, and we made an agreement after the son understood. I had him meet me in a restaurant in Central Park above a hotel, Chinese restaurant. And I had a girl sitting here at the table here with her purse right there, had a gun in it. And then the guy I was with had the girl sitting over here with a purse with a gun in it. So we knew that guy was not getting in that building with the gun. But we knew he had people all around the circle, Columbo Circle in New York. So he got there. And I explained the situation to him. I took him in the bathroom and I made him understand. I said, I got money ready for you now. This is how much I got. I said, I got a guy in a truck out there waiting. You could take it. If you don't take it, I'm going to keep it. Then you got to find me. What do you want to do? He agreed to it. And so we went out. I told, get rid of all your guys. He did. And we waited on the corner. He's waiting. I said, my truck could be here. And my guys came. They were in a van. Pulled up to the street right there in the middle of New York, middle of Central Park. And they put the bag out the window. I give them the bag and I said goodbye. That was it. Things get hairy sometimes. You know, people get crazy. You want to kill people. They don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, so talking about hairy situations, tell us about the time that one of your best friends, Sonny Franzese, put a hit out on you.
That has to do with that cocaine conspiracy. As I told you, Michael Costello never called me. And now the informer's telling him to, and so Michael is asking the informant, Guy Furtado, what's going on with his deal, where's all the money? And now the informant makes up another lie. He says, Ori's got to be doing a deal and he's screwing us out of the money. So he gets him pissed off. Michael goes to Sonny and gets permission to whack me. Now, Sonny used to call me up and say, yeah, I got to see you. Come on in for dinner. Okay? Sonny never called me and asked me. That's the only thing that pissed me off. And Sonny and I, we settled that. I mean, we settled it afterwards, you know, when we were in the courthouse.
Tell the viewers how it felt having a hit put out on you, knowing that they were after you at that time.
Well, it's not a good feeling. I can't say that I was jumping for joy. But I understood what to say. Like I say, you got to analyze the situation. And you got to ask yourself why and how did this come about and how did it happen? Okay? It all stemmed from a dirty, rotten informant. There was never a cocaine deal. I was never going to do a cocaine deal. But it was all made up through the informant, talking to Costello, and become predicate acts on the Columbo family indictment. It's, you know, I don't know about the laws over there in England, but our laws here, you know, they say the scales of justice are level. No, scale of justice is like this. And we're down here. What the RICO Act did, and that was passed by Richard Nixon, what that did was give the FBI, the U.S. Attorney, the ability to be able to lie and get away with it. And that's how they use it, and with no consequences to them. These laws need to be changed in this country. They're very unfair. We house more inmates in the United States than any other country in the world. It's a business here. It's a big business.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's similar in Britain. It's a private enterprise in Britain as well, and they've even made conspiracies for individuals. They call it concerned in the supply. That's when they haven't even got a second person. They've created a single conspiracy for just an individual now, even who hasn't been caught with anything. When are you next in London? Are you allowed to travel, or is there restrictions on your travel? Obviously, forgetting this corona business.
Right now, I'm not flying any place with this COVID. And actually, we're not allowed to fly into London now. I don't know if I could go to England or not, and I'm having my lawyer check on it because I want to get there. I want to see everybody, and especially see Joey, you know. I guess see Joey and all the guys over there.
But it's been an absolute pleasure today, and I want to thank you very much for your time, Ori.
My pleasure, and you have a great weekend, my friend.
Same to you.
Okay, take care.
Thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoyed this story, and please stay tuned for future videos, and like, share, subscribe, and leave any suggestions for future videos in the comment section. Thank you.